She sees dead people. Do you see dead people? Do you believe in ghosts? So I've got some mysteries for you. I wanted mysteries where a ghost was a co-host or cooperative or a mischievous person that was included in the story as a secondary character. I wanted them inclusive. I didn't want to be scared by ghosts or investigating paranormal stuff or any. I wanted the ghost to be a physical uh, ghost in the story. So I'm hoping if you like these authors, if you like CAROLYN HAINES or Alison Brooke or Casey Daniels, you'll like these other authors, if them. And also, if you could check back Flashback Mondays, where I talk about RT, Romantic Times Book Review magazine, talk about all genres, historical romance, contemporary romance, mystery, sci-fi, paranormal, erotica, and Harlequin. And don't forget, recapping Star Trek Next Generation on Fridays. And If Then. If you watch Star Trek, then stick around and watch the If Then episode that follows. Most appreciative. And welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina, K-O-I-S-T-I-N-A. This is where we read books, talk about books, no special effects going on here, no theme music, none of that stuff. And so I'm learning sign language for teaching, so it's nice to meet you. So shall we get started? We've got a few books that qualify here and a few books that don't, but I decided to include them all. Pepper Martin works in a cemetery, and she helps solve the mysteries. They come to her and go, that I was murdered. Could you find out who was murdered and make sure they get convicted? So these people come to her. She's really popular in the cemetery. She does really good work. It's a really good series. I really enjoy it. There's a little bit of romance on the side, not too much. It's a little touched at here and there, but it doesn't really matter to the series. So it's Casey Daniels, Dawn of the Dead. This is book 1 in the Pepper Martin series. Beautiful, smart, and chic, Pepper Martin never had to work a day in her life until her surgeon daddy was convicted of fraud. Her wealthy fiance took her powder, and the family fortune ran bone dry. Suddenly desperate, the inexperienced ex-rich girl was forced to take the only job she could get as a tour guide in a cemetery. But a grave situation took a turn for the worse when a head-on collision with a headstone left her with an unwanted ability to communicate with the disgruntled deceased. And now Pepper Martin has a whacked mafia don demanding that she hunt down his killers and threaten to haunt her until she does. This is so good. I really like this series. Just a second. Okay, our second book, I had hoped to have this one, but it hasn't arrived yet, so we'll have to do with a picture. Where are my glasses? CAROLYN HAINES, Sarah Booth Delaney series. Sarah Booth and Tinky are private investigators, and in each book they solve murder mysteries and other mysteries. The series is based in Zinnia, Mississippi, and she's haunted by Jitty, a ghost, an African-American woman who lived on her plantation years ago. She's also joined by her pets, Sweetie Pie, and her cat Pluto, and Tinky's dog Chablis. And Oscar is Tinky's husband. We have Graf Malou, we have Coleman the sheriff, Cece, Millie, a growing list of friends and acquaintances, and please check out my videos. I did all of these books last year, so please check them all out. It starts with Them Bones. Sarah Booth Delaney, an unconventional Southern belle who has a knack for uncovering the truth, is about to make her hottest detective in Zinnia, Mississippi. No self-respecting lady would allow herself to end up in Sarah Booth's situation. Unwed, unemployed, and over 30. She's flat broke and about to lose the family plantation, not to mention being haunted by the ghost of her great-great-grandmother's nanny, who never misses an opportunity to remind her of her sorry state or to suggest a plan of action, like ransoming her friend's prize pooch, to raise some cash. It's an awesome series. Please check out all my videos for that. Where's the other one? Oh, it's right here. I just pulled it. Oh, here we go. Front face. DARYNDA Jones, first grave on the right. Charlie Davison is a part-time private investigator and a full-time Grim Reaper, meaning she sees dead people, really, and it's her job to convince them to go into the light. But when these very dead people have died under less than ideal circumstances like murder, sometimes they want Charlie to bring the bad guys to justice. Complicating matters are the intensely hot dreams she's been having about an entity who has been following her all her life. And it turns out he might not be dead after all. In fact, he might be something else entirely. But what does he want with Charlie, and why doesn't she seem to resist him? E.J. COPPERMAN, Night of the Living Dead. Shall we let her get through first? Bing, 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 bing. Bing, bing. Oh, only one. Oh my lord. I don't remember the last time she's ever done just one. E.J. COPPERMAN, Night of the Living Dead. Newly divorced Allison Kirby wants a second chance for herself and her 9-year-old daughter, so she's returned to her home on the Jersey Shore to transform a fixer-upper into a charming and hopefully profitable guest house. But when a bump on the head leaves her seeing not only stars but spirits, Allison realizes the real challenge she's facing is out of this world. The two residing ghosts are Maxie Malone, the foul-tempered former owner of the house, who definite options about Allison's design plans, and Paul Harrison, a private eye who's been working for Maxie. Both died in the house on the same night. The official cause of death was suicide, but the ghosts insist they were murdered, and they need Allison to find out who killed them, or the next ghost in the house will be Allison herself. I so enjoy Carrie Singleton. Where is the other? This series takes place in Clover Ridge, Connecticut. Carrie starts off as a floating librarian at the Clover Ridge Library and then is promoted to head of programs and events. She originally came here just to spend time with her Aunt Harriet and Uncle Bosco. She starts the series living with her Aunt Harriet and Uncle Bosco, but eventually gets her own little cottage to rent, owned by Dylan Avery, who eventually becomes a love interest. And Angela is her best friend, and Steve is Angela's boyfriend. Sally is the director, and Mrs. Evelyn Havers is the library ghost. She worked in the library until she was killed in the parking lot, so she haunts the library. And Dorothy Haskins is Mrs. Havers' niece, and Dorothy doesn't like Carrie at all because she wanted the job that Carrie got. Trish Templeton is the afternoon assistant. Susan Robinson is the evening assistant. Jim Singleton eventually shows up, and as her father, I'm getting too far carried away with the series. But I did all of these too, so please check these out. Carrie Singleton is just about done with Clover Ridge until she's offered a job as head of programs and events at the spooky local library, complete with its own librarian ghost. Her first major event is a program presented by a retired homicide detective, Al Buckley, who claims he knows who murdered Laura Foster, a library aide who was bludgeoned to death 15 years earlier. As he invites the audience to share stories about Laura, he suddenly keels over and dies. The medical examiner reveals that he was poisoned, and Carrie feels responsible for having surged forward with the program despite pushback from her director. Driven by guilt, Carrie is determined to discover who murdered the detective, convinced it's the same man who killed Laura all those years ago. Luckily for Carrie, she has a friendly, knowledgeable ghost by her side. But as she questions the shadows surrounding Laura's case, disturbing secrets come to light, and with each step Carrie takes, she gets closer to ending up like Al. Angie Fox, Southern Spirits. One simple mistake for a girl who's about to lose her family home releases the ghost of a long-dead gangster and opens Verity's eyes to a whole new world. When out-of-work graphic designer Verity Long accidentally traps a ghost on her property, she's saddled with more than a supernatural sidekick. She gains the ability to see spirits. It leads to an offer she can't refuse from the town's bad boy, the brother of her ex and the last man she should ever partner with. Elias Wendell is in possession of a stunning historic property haunted by some of Sugar Land, Tennessee's finest former citizens. Only some of them are growing restless and destructive. He hires Verity to put an end to the disturbances, but soon Verity learns there's more to the mysterious estate than floating specters, secret passageways, and hidden rooms. There's a modern-day mystery afoot, one that hinges on decades-old murder. Verity isn't above questioning the living or the dead, but can she discover the truth before the killer finds her? Lily Harper Hart, Ghostly Interest. Harper Hollow lives in a world of ghosts. She sees them, she talks to them, she investigates them. She sends them on their merry way. She's not embarrassed by her abilities, and she's not afraid to be who she is. She's also not looking for a relationship. Enter Jared Monroe, a smooth-talking police detective who sees things in black and white and ignores any shade of gray. He doesn't believe in ghosts, and while he's intrigued by the feisty blonde ghost detective, he's not interested in the paranormal. When 20-year-old Annie Dresden's body washes up on the beach of Whisper Cove, Harper and Jared collide. Sparks may be flying, but so is confusion and mistrust. Harper calls on her loyal band of ghost hunters to solve the crime, and Jared relies on his training to tackle the problem. It doesn't matter what approach they take because all paths are destined to intersect. Can Harper and Jared learn to work together? And more importantly, can new ghosts let go of the past and give in to an obscure future? It's anyone's guess when big personalities go to war and find they might have more in common than they think. I just did this one the other day. Please check out that video. Carol J. Perry, High Spirits. This was interesting. This lady owns this hotel. I was trying to pay attention to characters, and I wasn't drawn in to care about them like I did with CAROLYN HAINES' Sarah Booth Delaney series. You're actually drawn in like to care about them. It may take a couple of more books for that to happen with this series, but it is a lady who has a ghost sidekick, and there's also a guy that comes into town who runs the old projector who gets murdered. So there's a lot of good potential in this book, a lot of good potential in this series. So please check out my video for more details. Christmas lights on palm trees and Santa hats on plastic flamingos are far from the snowy landscape Maureen and her beloved golden retriever Finn are used to. But Maureen is determined to make this holiday to remember, which means finding a way to promote Haven House on a shoestring. Fortunately, Haven's vintage movie theater, the Paramount, has come up with a great 12 Days of Christmas idea. They'll feature an impressive list of the best classic Christmas movies ever made, show one by one movie actor turned projectionist Declan Moore. But nobody bothered to tell Maureen that the Paramount is haunted by the ghost of a man who was murdered a few years back. Haven's top cop, Frank Hubbard, doesn't believe in ghosts, but believing that Declan Moore was somehow involved, he wants Maureen's help. That plan is derailed when on the first day of the festival, a fresh murder victim is found at the theater. Now Maureen has to defend her staff and guests while trying to keep her high-spirited resident ghosts out of the picture before they have company for the holidays. And I remember what my biggest pet peeve was. Her ghost always wanted to borrow her clothing. And I was wondering, why would the ghost need to bother her clothing? Couldn't they just manifest clothing? And would you see a mink coat walking down the street with no person in it? I had a little issue with that stuff, but otherwise it was a good story. Yasmine GALENORN, Ghost of a Chance. Esmeralda O'Brien is the owner of Chinson Tea Room, where guests are served the perfect blend of teas and tarot readings. She never set out to be a detective, but once word gets out she can communicate with the dead. There's no turning back. When the ghost of Susan Mitchell asks for Esmeralda's help in convicting her own murderer, Esmeralda can't refuse. Along with her new friends, an ex-supermodel and a cop, and her new love interest, Esmeralda must search for clues to put the killer behind bars and rest Susan's tortured soul. TONYA KAPPES, A Ghostly Undertaking. A funeral, a ghost, a murderer, it's all in a day's work for Emily Raines. Bopped on the head from a fallen plastic Santa, local undertaker Emily Raines is told she's suffering from funeral trauma. It's funeral trauma, all right, because the not-so-dearly departed keep talking to her. Take Ruthie Sue Payne, innkeeper, gossip queen, and arch-nemesis of Emily's granny. She's adamant that she didn't just fall down those stairs, she was pushed. Ruthie has no idea who wanted her pushing up daisies. All she knows is that she can't rest until the matter is laid to eternal rest. In the land of the living, Emily's high school crush, Sheriff Jack Henry Ross, isn't ready to rule out foul play. Granny Haines, the widow of Ruthie's ex-husband and co-owner of the Sleepy Hollow Inn, is the prime suspect. Now Emily is stuck playing detective or risk being haunted forever. Bobbie Holmes, the ghost of Marlowe. When Danielle Boatman inherits Marlowe House, she dreams of turning it into a seaside bed and breakfast. Since she's never visited the property, Danielle's not sure awaits her in Oregon. She certainly doesn't expect to find one of the house's previous owners still in residence. After all, the man has been dead for almost 90 years. Shouldn't he have moved on by now? Charming Walt Marlowe convinces Danielle the only way he can move on is if she solves the mystery of his murder. Okay, so I have a couple of these. Where'd they go? Right in front of me. This is a new series. Harper Connolly series. Harper Connolly and her stepbrother Tolliver head there only to discover that the boy was only one of several who had disappeared over the previous 5 years. All of them teenagers, all of them unlikely runaways, all calling for Harper. Harper soon finds them 8 victims buried in the half-dozen ground. All come to unspeakable end. Afterwards, what she wants to do is collect her feet and get out of town ahead of the meteor storm that's about to descend. But when she's attacked and prevented from leaving, she reluctantly becomes part of the investigation as she learns more than she cares to about the dark mysteries and long-hidden secrets of Doraville, knowledge that makes her the next likely person to rest in an ice-cold grave. And there's also Grave Surprise and Grave Secret. So check those out. I have a couple of these. I don't have this one though. Victoria Laurie, What's a Ghoul to Do? GHOUL. What's a Ghoul to Do? MJ, her partner Gilly, and her client, the wealthy, delish Dr. Stephen Sable, are at his family lodge, where his grandfather allegedly jumped to his death from the roof. Although Sable says it was foul play, but the patriarch isn't the only ghost around. The place is lousy with souls, all with something to get off their ghoulish chests. Now MJ will have to quell the clamor and listen for a voice with the answers. GAYLE LEESON, Designs on Murder. What if you discovered your likely new friend wasn't really alive? Amanda Tucker is excited about opening her fashion design studio shops on Main, a charming old building in historic Abington, Virginia. She didn't realize a ghost came with the property, but soon Maxine Engelbreit, a young woman who died in 1930, isn't the only dead person at the retail complex. Mark Tinsley, a web designer with a know-it-all attitude, also rented shops at On the Main, is a shot in his office. Amanda is afraid that one of her new friends and fellow business owners is his killer, and Max is encouraging her to solve Mark's murder a la Nancy Drew. Easy for Max to want to investigate. The ghostly fashionista can't end up the killer's next victim. Daniel Garrett, the ghost hunter. Next door. The first rule of being a ghost whisperer: don't tell anyone. Seriously, don't. Sure, it might sound harmless, a fun party trick, even I assure you it's not. How do I know? Well, let's just say that I've had a lot of experience with this sort of thing, and 9 times out of 10, it turns into an all-consuming disaster. Being plagued by needy ghosts 24/7 is one thing. Being harassed by a horde of curious, or worse, grieving flesh and blood people is entirely different. I mean, really, who wants to hold an impromptu seance in the middle of the cereal aisle? Not me. And the manager of the grocery store probably isn't too crazy about the idea either. So that's it. If you're a ghost whisperer, just keep your mouth shut and act normal. What ghost? Now, only if I could listen to my own advice. Lucy Ness, haunted homicide. Avery Morgan has been hired to breathe new life into the Portage Path Women's Club. First, she'll have to deal with a dead body and a meddling ghost. Avery Morgan has a harrowing first week on the job as manager of the Portage Path Women's Club. Not only is she in charge of a grand old home with a mountain of maintenance problems and scheduling nightmares, thanks to a recent fire in the Marigold meeting room, but she's also got Muriel Sadler to deal with. Muriel is the next president of the club, the one nay vote when the rest of the board voted aye to hiring Avery. After a morning of dealing with one another of Muriel's snits and meetings with the delicious and delightfully unsettling Ben Harkness, who will be handling renovations in the fire-damaged portions of the house, the last thing Avery needs is one of the fuses to blow again. She grabs her handy flashlight and heads into the basement, where she stumbles across Muriel's body. She also stumbles across an unexpected helper, Clemmy Bowe, the ghost of a young woman who was accidentally killed in the building almost 100 years ago. They have to solve the murder mystery together. Jane Hickey, Ghost Mortem, a ghost detective paranormal cozy. Whoever said that ghosts exist must be out of their mind. Oh wait, that's me. I said that. If you told me yesterday that ghosts were real, I would have smiled, nodded, and called a shrink to fix your deluded little mind. Now it's my turn to question my sanity when the ghost of my best friend turns up in my apartment. Was it tequila shots the night before causing the apparition, or one too many bumps to the head? Let's face it, Clumsy is my middle name, and it really wouldn't surprise me if I'd done some irreparable damage to my gray matter over the years. Now I have to accept what the paranormal does, in fact, exists. But sadly, my ghost friend is lacking something besides his body, his memory. He doesn't know how he died, but suspects foul play, and he wants my help to find his killer. I can't refuse. I'm a sucker for a good mystery, and the chance to bring my friend's killer to justice is too good to pass up. Surprises abound as I discover a secret talent for sleuthing, not to mention an unexpected inheritance of a talking cat, among other things. T.K. Eldridge, dead and buried. Detectives Kennedy and Donovan were partners for years, then one of them died, and yet they're still partners. Kennedy has to solve Donovan's death while his partner ghosts help him. Sort of. How do you explain where you get the tips? How do you avoid showing them that you're speaking to thin air and no, you haven't lost your mind? Kennedy has to hide how he's figuring it all out so he can keep his badge and solve the murder too, before he ends up dead and buried too. Emmeline Lynn, Sense and a Suspect. When Nikki Knight returns to her childhood stomping grounds in Frog Hollow, Georgia, She realizes life is nuttier than pecan muffins at her late grandmother's haunted B&B. But only the ghost in the Moonlight Mansion is the previous lady of the house, still roaming the halls in her afterlife. Not 10 steps into town, Nikki finds herself with a furry new companion, an abandoned royal dachshund who might carry the secret to his past owner's untimely demise. But when Nikki is seen snooping around at one too many crime scenes, the local officer becomes suspicious and begins popping up when she least expects it. Now she needs to find out what happened ASAP and protect Prince Asher, Dogbeam, from falling into the wrong and deadly hands. Amanda Stevens, The Restorer Graveyard Queen series. My name is Amelia Gray. I'm a cemetery restorer who sees ghosts. In order to protect myself from parasitic nature of the dead, I've always held fast to the rules passed down from my father. But now a haunted police detective has entered my world and everything changing, including the rules that have always kept me safe. It started with the discovery of a young woman's brutalized body in an old Charleston graveyard I've been hired to restore. The clues to the killer and to the other victims lie in the headstone symbolism that only I can interpret. Devlin needs my help, but his ghost shadow his every move, feeding off his warmth, sustaining their presence with his energy. To warn him would be to invite them into my life. I vowed to keep my distance, but the pull of his magnetism grows ever stronger, even as the symbols lead me closer to the killer and to the gossamer veil that separates this world from the next. And then I've got a few odds and end mentions here. A Ghost of a Chance, Kate McAllister. For those who transmortis anomalies that need to be exterminated, there's Karma Max, a woman who exorcises haunted house, sending troublesome spirits and their entities to the ever after. Spider, her cheating, sleazy real estate agent husband, is proving more difficult to banish. So she makes him a deal. She'll clean one last home for him if he grants her divorce. The only problem is that Adam Jessica, the home's former owner, isn't happy with Karma's plan. Using his poltergeist powers, he seals the place, trapping Karma, Spider, and motley assortment of other characters, some living not so much, together with a hair-raising 12 hours. But when Spider turns up dead in the basement, it's a locked house mystery, and Karma is determined to reveal the truth, even if it means tackling all of those house inhabitants, mortal and otherwise. Cleo Coyle, The Ghost and the Haunted Portrait. While gathering a collection of vintage book coverings for a special event at her quaint Rhode Island bookshop, Penelope discovers a spooky portrait of a beautiful woman, one who supposedly went mad according to the town gossip Seymour. The local mailman falls in love with the haunting image and buys the picture, refusing to part with it even as fatal accidents befall those around him. Is the canvas cursed, or is it something more sinister than that? Mary Mary Ghost, a Carolyn Hart mystery. Being dead can't put a damper on spirited holiday-loving Bailey Ruth Rayburn. Christmas is a time for family and giving, and wealthy woman in Adeline, Oklahoma, is about to embrace both. Discovering that she has a young grandson, the dowager decides to change her will to leave the bulk of her fortune to the boy. An alteration that stuns the rest of her family. But a Scrooge of determination heir makes sure she never signs the new document. When she's found dead, it's up to the irrepressible spirit Bailey Ruth, on assignment from Wiggs and Haven's Department of Good Intentions, to protect her little boy, foil a murder, and save Christmas. Let's see if I can. There we go. The Sheriff Surrender, The Lady Shooting Club, Book 1. Might actually read this one. This is good. Gert Dooley can shoot the tail feathers off a jay at 100 yards, but long after giving up on marriage, she yearns for rancher Ethan Chapman to see she's more than a crack shot. When murder strikes in Fergus, Gert forms a ladies' shooting club to teach the women how to protect themselves and their families. Asked to become sheriff, Ethan must investigate the death of his predecessor and restore order in the sleepy town. Then another person is murdered, and Ethan turns to Gert and a ladies to help investigate the mystery. I don't know why I did this one. And Karen White, the girl on Laguerre Street. There was a time when Melody's dysfunctional family out of sight and mind, and her only worries were her monthly sales figure, what a shade of beige to paint her low-maintenance condo, and whether she was ready to make charming journalist Jack Trenolin a permanent fixture in her life. After receiving a deadly premonition, Melanie's mother, who deserted her more than 30 years ago, suddenly turns to Charleston to protect her. But all Ginny Prillo Middleton does is remind Melanie of how little they have in common, except for the ability to communicate with ghosts. And now Jeanette is moving into the ancestral home on Laguerre Street, and she needs Melanie's advice on restoring it and her sixth sense to talk to the dead who inhabit it. So check it out. So I hope you found something interesting in these ghost books. And I hope you will hit the like and subscribe and let me know I'm doing a good job. I hope you enjoyed this if then. I hope you've enjoyed all the if thens. Don't forget to check out my daily book reviews, my Star Trek recaps, and my Romantic Times book reviews on Mondays, where I review all different genres. So please hit the like and subscribe, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much.